Hey, greetings. It's day 2 of Shark Week. Are you guys as excited as I am? So today we're going to sketch another species of shark. If you want to catch the other species that we did yesterday, which was the tiger shark, you can see it on my YouTube channel later on. But right now we're going to start with another shark. But I want to welcome you. And in case you haven't met me before, hi, I'm Christine Elder. I'm a naturalist, environmental educator, and visual artist from Central Oregon, which is far away from the ocean. But I've had the luck to be able to scuba dive and snorkel with sharks in a lot of places in the world, like the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, the Pacific coast of California, even in Asia. And so I'm really excited to share my love of sharks with you and to dispel some of the myths. Because, of course, this year is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. And although that was a really fun and scary movie, it did make people be overly scared of sharks. And there's been a lot of decimation of their population since then. So we want to dispel those myths and learn more about sharks. And the way I always love to teach people about something is through the practice of drawing. And so today we are going to draw a species that was requested in yesterday's YouTube. So be sure to say hi in the chat. Tell us if you've seen a shark before, if you have any interesting shark stories, and if you've ever sketched a shark. So today, we're going to sketch the shark that was suggested by one of my viewers, and that is the hammerhead shark. And we're going to talk a bit about its biology and its anatomy, and we're going to sketch it. So even if you don't have any sketching materials, that's fine. You can just watch. Sometimes it's helpful to watch the drawing demonstration first and then try it again in the replay. So I'm going to be using just plain old paper and pencils and maybe some charcoal pencils and blenders. We'll see what we have. Now, don't forget, later on, you can also watch yesterday's event where we did the tiger shark. And you can download your set of free high-resolution images of sharks, various species, and that is in the chat box and also in the description below the video. So thanks so much for joining Carolyn and Jennifer, yes, who lived in Florida for many years. So maybe you saw some sharks. Okay, so we're going to get started. We are going to get this other screen here. So we're going to be sketching over there at my other table right here and my other camera. So tell me in the chat box if you're going to sketch along with me. Okie dokie, there we go. So I always suggest looking closely at our shark before we start sketching it. Now, we are focused on hammerheads, and I was lucky enough to snorkel with hammerhead sharks in the Galapagos Islands. And of course, I used to be terrified of sharks, like most people are, especially if you grew up watching Jaws. But they should be more afraid of us than we are of them because, of course, we've killed millions and millions of them for their meat and for sport fishing. So anyway, this is the hammerhead shark, and this is what I brought home with me. And, you know, I always suggest trying to sketch from models like this. It's really good practice to see three-dimensional form. But that's not what we're doing. Today, we're going to sketch from a photo. And again, I've got some images for you that you can download from my website. And so one thing I like to suggest that people try before they start sketching is that you could cover your picture, if you're drawing from pictures, with a piece of this, what do they call this? The shiny paper that you put stuff in. And just to help you look at it, to focus on its anatomy and to kind of just do some ghost drawing of it. And let me see. Wait, I want to make sure this is in the right place. Well, that's going to have to be good enough. Okay. And so what you notice, of course, is the hammerhead is named for its unique head. And there's actually about, I think, 9 or 10 species of hammerheads. And I read that they actually evolved later than some of their relatives, like the great white shark. There were some really weird sharks over the millennia. Sharks have been in the oceans for hundreds of millions of years, and but this one evolved later and got this really weird head. And this big flat head is called a cephalofoil. And that's actually inside that head is not just flesh, but is actually part of the skull. And the eyes are way out here at the end. And they have really good binocular vision, especially when they're swimming. They'll move that head back and forth as they search for food in the sand. And they are bottom feeders. They're often searching just above the sand. And that's how we saw them in the Galapagos. They were about 20 feet under us near the surface of the sand. And they can sense things that are buried under the sand with their little ampullae of Lorenzini, which are these sensory systems that are along the broad cephalofoil. Yes, and go ahead, make comments in the chat box. Thank you. And ask any questions. So they love to eat rays, skates and rays that are actually buried under the sand, and they can sense them with these ampullae of Lorenzini. And then you also see the mouth, and the mouth is set under the cephalofoil. Compared to some other species where the mouth is more at the end. But in general, in sharks, there's a nostril. Their snout is above and their mouth is underneath. And of course, they've got really big shark teeth. All righty. And so then you see that the rest of the body is kind of this oval. And so that's going to be kind of easy to draw. Now, we're going to draw this in a minute together. We're first now just looking at the parts, and I'm giving you this idea of how you can kind of study the parts by drawing over it with the sheet protector. Yeah, and so, like most sharks, they are really streamlined, kind of like a torpedo, so they can move fast through the water. And then they have all these obvious fins, and they all have names. So this first dorsal fin is really tall in the hammerhead shark. And then there's a second dorsal fin. And then, of course, there's the tail. And some sharks, like the hammerhead, have a quite longer top part than a bottom part. And the extreme is the thresher shark, which has that top part that's about as long as the body. And then most sharks have this little ridge here. It looks like somebody took some scissors and cut it, but that's natural. And I think that relates to swimming ability, because they use that tail and all the muscles in their body to thrust them forward. Whereas the dorsal fins and this anal fin and the pair of pelvic fins, those help to stabilize them left and right so they don't roll. But speaking of rolling, it's really interesting that hammerhead sharks tend to swim in a rolled position, as they call it. They'll actually swim sort of sideways like this, and that will help with their hydrodynamics. And then the last pair of fins, which help them to steer, are these front dorsal fins. Now, in yesterday's workshop, you can watch that afterwards. I go into a lot more detail on the basics of shark anatomy, so you can watch that again later. Now, another thing we can see in this picture are the 5 gills. And most sharks have 5 gills, although there's a few species that have 6 or 7. Now, again, go ahead and ask questions in the chat box and tell me if you've ever seen a shark in real life or you have any good shark stories. And another reason I love sharks and know a little bit about sharks is I worked in California at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, as well as the California Marine Mammal Center, and learned a lot about sharks and saw some. And then you'll also notice the color difference. There's the gray on the top and the white on the bottom. So anyway, I'm going to move that. That just gave us a chance to observe. And I always suggest that people take quite a bit of time to observe something before they start sketching it. Just a second. Turns out my paper is a little dirty for some reason. I'm going to slide this other paper in here. For some reason, it got something on it. Okay, so, right. All righty, so I'm just going to start and hope you can follow along later on. And yeah, so first thing I'll do is I'll just kind of mark on the paper where the shark is going to be, left and right. And I always try to give you photos like this in my bonuses with white background and pretty easy to see the shark. Okay, and then I would start maybe with what should we start with? Maybe I'll just, sometimes I'll start with kind of an oval like we did with yesterday's tiger shark, but I think I might start with the cephalofoil, making sure that we really accentuate that being in front. And so we're going to put that, yeah, we're going to put that at least here. So again, making that big rectangle. Now, there are, I believe, 9 or 10 species of hammerhead sharks, and they have different shapes. Some of them, like the bonnet head, have a head that's not much bigger than a normal shark's head. Whereas this species, this is the great hammerhead. And as its name implies, it is the largest and apex predator in the oceans, the great hammerhead. So it's got the biggest hammer, and a lot of hammerhead sharks. Can you guys see that? Yeah. They also have kind of a wavy pattern to the front. So you might not be able to see, but the eye in this photo, but the eye is here. And did I make that too big? No, it's perfect. Okay, so the eye is going to be about here. And we can make a little highlight if we want. And then the other eye you don't see as much of because we're on this side of the shark. So to help you with your perspective, you're just going to not show as much of that. And then we're going to make it a little bit wavy. And this isn't a great picture to show that waviness, but here is actually a different species, just to give you an idea. This is the scalloped hammerhead, and they have these kind of wavy scallop parts. But so anyway, this guy does too to some extent. So we'll just put a few waves in here. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about the exact anatomy if you're not getting it exactly correct. I always encourage my students to understand that while you're drawing something, you're learning a lot about its biology and anatomy, no matter if your drawing turns out to, look worse than the 5-year-olds. So feel good about it. Okay. And so anyway, I'm going to firm this up a bit and firm this up a bit. And so then we've got the head coming down here. So where the mouth is. And maybe that's where I'll kind of just continue on with this idea to show kind of where we're at, because we want to make sure we kind of get the whole shark here. It's going to be, the body actually kind of comes like this. So it's going to be kind of like this. And since I have this photo in front of me, I can practice here. Oh yeah, see, I got him kind of way too fat. So it's important to really observe. Sometimes we draw things that we think are supposed to be bigger. Now, what we're seeing is foreshortening, that this guy is swimming towards us. So the rest of his body is actually smaller than it would be if we were just looking exactly at a side view like this. this is the sketch we did together yesterday. And again, afterwards, you can go back and see the sketch I did. All right, so then now I want to measure, make sure he's not too fat. How come I've got him so fat? It's funny that want to make sure that this is right. So yeah, your brain wants you. Oh, I probably made this a little bit too thick. Your brain wants you to draw things certain size that they think are important. So I think I'm gonna go like that. Okay, that'll be a little bit better because that's why I wanted to make them so big. And so now, one way you can measure different parts is to just compare them to each other. Like the cephalon, it's longer than the whole shark is tall. So if I were to draw that, yeah, and I would kind of go like that, that's sort of where that's going to be. Okay. All right. So now we can show the rest of the body. And you can see that this, let's see, where are we? Yeah, so the body is actually kind of right at the edge of the cephalofoil, the way we've got him here. And then making sure we have enough room for the tail. Yeah, we want to make sure that we got enough room for the tail. And that tail is going to go back. So we're just kind of placing these things just kind of quickly to make sure we're approximate. And you see how I'm wanting to make this so much bigger because my brain is wanting to draw a side view. But again, this guy is swimming towards us and this tail is smaller than it should be. So that it really, really would be. So it's kind of more like this. So you really have to be careful. But again, even if your proportions are totally off, that's okay. You're still learning a lot about something while you're drawing it. So then, yeah, so then we can notice before we get too much farther that his caudal peduncle, as we call it, should be a lot narrower. And that's why. So, you got to feel like it's okay to fix things. Just kind of, you can make a mess. And yeah, that's better. So my brain was wanting to just do more of a side view, right? So there we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, you see how that happens. Now, so that's closer. Okay, and then the rest of the body is going to kind of be like this. And, since I have my photo here, I could double check these proportions. But again, even if you're totally off, you're still learning something in the process of looking at it long enough to draw. So remember, the drawing is just sort of like a foil. It's just an activity to help you. Just like, when I go on my evening hike, it's just a foil to get some exercise, but I just love to be outside, right? Okay, so now we're a little bit closer here, and you can see, yeah, you can see that it can take a while to get those proportions. And you want to spend some time on this part because if you kind of rush with your proportions, then you're not gonna, I think I'm a little happier with that now. That's close enough. And then, yeah, look how much farther this tail goes back. And then you want to put that notch in there. And then it gets a little thicker at the base. And then that second one is narrower. Okay, that's a little closer. All right. And then we can add the other fins. So this fin, you can see, is actually behind the eye. Um, and I want to make my eye look like it's coming towards me a bit more. I think that's better. And this fin is going to be coming out. It's actually coming out from near the eye here. And so each different species of shark has a little bit different fins. Some of them have really tall fins, almost like a killer whale. And some of them have shorter fins, like the short fin mako, I think he's called. And some sharks have the bottom part free here. You see, this isn't attached. Let me see. Yeah. And again, if I want to get that a little bit more accurate, I think I might make that a little wider. And since we're going to be shading this guy, I don't have to erase that, but I will. So anyway, yes, some sharks have this little clip here, just like here, where it looks like someone took some scissors and cut it. So that's the first dorsal fin. And then the second dorsal fin is back here. And you can't see it very well, but there should be a little dip in there on there too as well. And a little taller there. Other fin below it that's almost exactly below it. And that's the anal fin. It's behind the anus, which is right in front here. And then you get the pair of pelvic fins. And those are kind of located between the two dorsals. And you see both of them. So those are paired. One's in front. And what you also see are these trailing edges that are actually the claspers. And that's a male. And the claspers are the part that helps it to mate. So that's going to be a really long piece there. It's actually not attached to the fin. It looks like it is, but it's kind of hard to show that it's a separate thing. And then there's the other one kind of like this. And that's going to be sort of in shadow. Okay. How are we doing? Tell me in the chat box. I haven't seen any chat. Are you following along? Am I going too fast, or am I making too many mistakes? And I think you have this picture or a very similar one in the handout. Okay, so then let's get his pectoral fin. And that's gonna, where is that lined up? It's lined up sort of in front of the eye. So I like to kind of do these plumb lines to kind of see where things should be. And then I can also measure like how long this is compared to how long something else is. And then I can also kind of see this line. Yeah, and so it's going to be sort of like here. And also looking at this negative shape here. And so I'm going to give you a little chance to catch up. So this is under here. Yep. And under here. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit more like that. Yeah. I think something like that. So those are going to help the shark to steer. And this is a pretty fast swimming shark. Okay, something like that. And then the other one's way over here. So let's actually finish the mouth first before we start this. So the mouth, uh, again, in sharks, it's going to be under the snout. And yeah, there's kind of this color pattern here, and it doesn't go that far. And yeah, kind of like that. And then down. Okay. And then we got some teeth in there, some fun teeth. And different species of sharks actually have microscopically, well, not microscopically, but small differences in their shape. Okay. So, what are we doing here? I think I've got something weird with my cephalofoil. It's probably too big. um, because you tend to draw things that you think are important, maybe too big. And this one should definitely be bigger than this one because this is farther away. So what I think I'm going to do is going to make this look a little skinnier so it looks a little farther away. Because these things can be like 3 feet across. So that's amazing, isn't it? Okay, and then we can add the other pectoral fin. So that's kind of, you can kind of like do this arch here. Kind of do an arch here and here. Kind of like that. And since it's farther away from us, it's not going to be as long, right? And also part of it is covered by the body. And we could kind of just fill that in too, put it in the shade. All righty. How are we doing? Who's following along? All righty. Fun. Okay, so now we could start shading them. That would be the fun part. And I'm going to use this 3B pencil because yesterday I used this other pencil. I used this kind of more of a charcoal pencil on this guy. And that's fun, but we can show you this other way too. So, I'm just going to use a graphite pencil, and that's where it gets to be fun. And that's where we want to kind of make sure that we're choosing where our sun is coming from. These guys often do live in, they can be in shallow waters. They can be in, coral reefs where the sandy bottom is in the shallows. And that's actually where we saw ours in the Galapagos. It was only in about, I don't know, maybe 30 feet of water right next to this cliff that was part of one of the islands. So for fun, it's a little bit hard to tell where the sun is coming from, but you can see this cast shadow. So the sun might be coming from up here, okay, coming down like this. So I always like people to think about that, where the sun is coming from. Yeah, I've got something wrong. I think my mouth is too low. I think my mouth is supposed to be up here more, isn't it? I think it is. I think I'm gonna fix that. Because look, there's a lot more distance here. Yeah, it looks like this is down near his chest, and it should be right not too far from this line here. So forgive me, I am gonna move his mouth up a bit. It's driving me crazy. And so, but that just shows, you don't have to get it right the first time. And how big should I make his mouth? Yeah, there we go. Just getting the proportions on these guys is pretty challenging. And that's why I started with an easier one yesterday. And again, you can go back and look at that in my lives on YouTube, yesterday's. of the tiger shark. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, great. So now we're going to shadow him. And again, thinking about where the sun is coming from. And we're going to put the sun here. Even if you can't see where the sun is coming from, if the lighting is really flat, you should choose a direction. But you can actually see some highlights up here. And then the deepest shadows, because he's a big barrel shaped, like a what's it called? A torpedo. And then he actually gets lighter down here because the pigment is lighter, but there's still shadowing within the light part, right? And, one way it's easier sometimes to see highlights and shadows is to turn your picture upside down. And we can't do that right now because this is taped down here. But for example, if you were going to look at this picture, which is almost the same idea, this guy, I might as well have some decoration here. There, that's fun. If we were going to look at this guy here, it might be difficult to see the highlights and shadows. But if I turn it upside down, there's just something that changes in your brain that makes you work harder to look. And it's a lot more obvious how much lighter, like a value of 1, it is up here where the sun would be shining. Whereas the fin is pretty dark, and then the body is dark, but there's still some reflection of the sun more on the body than there is on the fins. So that's one thing you can do if you have a photo, and that's why I always suggest downloading these bonus images I give you guys from my website. So suggest you do that. So yeah, let's go. Let's just add some shadows. And so I'll just use the side of my pencil. And this is the part, that takes a lot longer. But you want to take your time on this. But I first just kind of give a medium value sort of everywhere. And then I can darken. Leave the whites, the teeth, if I can. So we're just gonna use the side of our pencil, and this is a really iterative process where we can lighten and darken and lighten and darken. So that's why pencil is fun. You see, I do have him too thick down here, don't I? And that's a little bit challenging to fix right now, but we don't care. We're just now practicing on seeing the light and shadow. So I used to do all my tutorials pre-recorded, the video part, so that I didn't have to describe what I was drawing at the same time as I was drawing it, that I would show my students the video that I pre-recorded, and then I would talk over it live, because it is a little bit hard to be in your right brain and really focus on shapes and proportions and values and coloring when you're trying to talk at the same time. But I do like to, I do enjoy being live and being able to stop if there are questions and that kind of thing. Okay, so that's kind of an overall middle value. And then we can just keep darkening it. I see kind of a highlight in the front of this fin. So I'm going to leave the front of the fin a little bit lighter. And now I'm going to go in with, a bit darker. And I want to really make sure that I keep this eye. Well, we're going to work on it later, but really want to make sure that we're emphasizing that this is in front. And so we'll just make sure we've done that at the end. But I want to make this darker because, again, the sun is shining and it's reflecting mostly on the top of the body. And Sorry, we'll do the head later. Carolyn, no, these YouTube lives are for the general audience to get to know the kinds of educational content I create. And I will talk more at the end. Thank you for mentioning that. This comment from Carolyn, she's in my paid monthly program called the Nature Notebook Club, which just goes into a lot more detail and has all kinds of cool stuff. So anyway, again, it's hard to talk and draw at the same time, but I'm just trying to go over here. And, again, I can lighten later on or even now to show this lighter belly. This is called counter shading, where the belly is lighter. But anyway, you just got to keep working a little bit everywhere. Yeah, let's work on this head now, because we really want to emphasize this head. I want to emphasize how close it is, and I'm actually going to add some pen to really emphasize my eye. And especially this part. This part here is the closest to us as he's swimming. And it is a he because it's got the claspers. But I'm just going to outline a little bit of this. And that's just going to emphasize that. And I could probably use some pen and emphasize the inside of the mouth, because that's super dark part of that. But yeah, let's really emphasize this cephalofoil. And part of it has more pigment on the top here, but there's also a bit of highlight on the top. So we want to emphasize this part less than we would if we were actually doing a scientific illustration. My training is in science illustration, but when you're drawing something to look more lifelike in the field, you want to kind of push the idea of your proportions and atmospheric perspective, as they call it. And we've got more shadowing over here. The sun's coming like this. And yeah, I don't know. I have my proportions a bit off, but that's okay. Again, the time you spend just looking at something is going to really help you understand it. And so even though this is technically white, this will have some shadowing, like there is a bit more shadowing down here. And there's a cast shadow here from the pectoral fin from the sun. And there's a shadow on the other pectoral fin from the body. And so we want to keep darkening this, because a lot of people will kind of stop at this point and not use the full range of values, but we really want to emphasize that this underside is light while still shadowing it, so that we can't get the white paper any whiter, so we have to get our darks darker. So we just want to look around. Now, sometimes it really helps if you put like a piece of paper in different places, and as you go around the animal, that can kind of help to show you. Where's my, here it is. So this is what I call my viewfinder. It's getting a little dirty. But if you just cover up a little part of what you're drawing, that will help you to show just how dark that is. And so sometimes, I'll do that and I'll kind of move that around the animal. And so like it's a little bit lighter here. And then it's much darker under the cephalofoil where it goes into the shadow that the cephalofoil is casting. And oh yeah, we almost forgot to get our gills in there again. We forgot that yesterday too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's generally 5 of them. And so yeah. Now, depending on your medium, you can only get as dark as your medium will allow. But you see how there are, more shadows here on the white than you would think. But then there's lots of dark here. And then this body is getting darker as it turns away from the sun, right? So we want to get him more dark. And he's going to be the darkest in here because where he's skinny, that sunlight can go around him more. But the darkest parts of the body are going to be here where he's really heavy. And there's going to be some more dark here too, but really dark here. And these fins are pigmented. And this is darker. And this has some pigment on it. And yeah, I got to get this darker. So yeah, today we're talking about the family called the Hammerhead Sharks. And each species, there's about, I think, 9 or 10, has a different shape to their hammer. And they live around the world, especially in tropical regions. This one is the largest of the 10 species, called the Great Hammerhead. It's global, tropically to subtropical regions, even reaching up to, I believe, like Southern California. This one kind of looks similar to some of the other hammerheads, but it's got the biggest hammer and it's straightest right here. And it's got the tallest fin. In fact, I don't know if I made that fin tall enough. Yeah, I think I did. It's got the tallest fin. They get to be 15 feet long. Yeah, and they're viviparous, which means they give birth to live young, like baby sharks come right out. They're not eggs or cases. Some sharks have really cool cases called mermaid purses, which is sort of cool. Okay. Yes, Carolyn says you love how the shading brings them to life. And then this picture doesn't show it too much, but there's actually a keel here, which we also drew yesterday. A lot of sharks will have this sort of keel or ridge. And I don't know if it doesn't show there very well, but it is this sort of ridge where the rest of the vertebral column goes up into the tail, and this ridge kind of gives them some more stability. So I don't know if you can see that on the video. We'll add some highlights to help really bring some things out to make it 3-dimensional. So you got to be patient. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't draw," but it does take some time actually, and so yeah, it takes some time and patience. And you can blend. I've got these different kind of blending stomps. So if you want to smooth some things out, like smoothing some things out that are farther away can help. Now I'm leaving a little bit of white area just to separate these visually. Again, this guy is going to look different in my drawing than it would like in a scientific illustration, because we are trying to emphasize the atmospheric perspective. And I actually have one of the bonuses inside my program, the Nature Notebook Club, which I linked to in the description below this video. One of the bonuses is a workshop on perspective drawing. In fact, I have some of the handouts here where we talk about how things look different, especially atmospheric aerial perspective in different positions. So that's a bonus that's inside the Nature Notebook Club. Okay. And so, yeah, now you can kind of see how I can get a lot darker. I can get a lot darker with charcoals. I can get a lot more range of values. It can look a little bit more realistic because I can get darker darks. Now, of course, I'm just using a 3B pencil. If I had something darker, I could. Now, these pencils don't really play well with charcoal pencils. If I tried to start adding some darker darks, it's like oil and vinegar. So you really can't blend them. So you either have to start with a charcoal pencil or a graphite-based pencil. So anyway, you're just not going to be able to get the same range of values that you can if you started with a charcoal pencil. Okay, so where was I? Oh, yeah. So, I can blend a bit more to soften the transitions. And then if I want to, emphasize some things again, I can. Kind of losing some of my whites there. But again, this is an iterative process, so you can kind of go back and forth. And so I would go back and forth, like I would take this pencil, which this is a sharp an eraser, and I could go back in and lift out some whites. Like I did see that the leading edge of this was a little white. And I had some white in front of here. And there should be some white on this keel. So you can kind of draw with this eraser. And again, I don't know how well you can see it in here. But yeah, so I want to bring back a little bit of my whites and have this edge be not so perfect. Oh, actually, I did see in this case, we did have the pigment coming down and onto that fin, didn't we? A little bit. But I'm sure each shark is a little bit different in this pigment pattern. And a little bit, we have a nice bright highlight here. Now, I could always get some really stronger highlights and shadows, highlights with this pen. And so I'm kind of moving down here, aren't I? All right, what's going on? For some reason, yeah, oh, sorry. Let's get that. And then, so I could add with this, you got to be really careful with this though, because it can really bleed. So you have to be super careful. And I have a thinner one. I have other ones that are thinner. But yeah, if I wanted to. Now we really are missing some blood red, aren't we? And I don't have any red close to me. Oh, I do have this pink. I can use this pink Sharpie, and that'll be fun to show its gums. It kind of looks like blood, doesn't it? Going a little overboard there. But you see we have some highlights, like we have some highlights along the gills. And we have some highlight on the front here. And highlight here. And what else? And then we could add some more shadows. Like this is actually coming towards us. And so again, kind of with atmospheric perspective, we want to force things that are closer to us and overlapping there to look a little closer to us, and put a little less emphasis on things that are farther away, even though we could add more detail. Like if I was doing, again, a scientific illustration, like for an ichthyologist of a new species of shark, I would be emphasizing all the parts equally. But we want to really visually bring forward the parts that are closest to us. And so again, I could like really add some more contrast in the highlights and shadows of this part of the cephalofoil, because this part is the closest to us, as well as maybe this fin. So I could add a little bit more emphasis here. And so that's kind of just the visual magic we're adding. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So like, like we said, I do have my proportions off a bit. I'm making it look like his tail is closer to us than it is, but that's okay. Again, we learned a lot in the process of drawing him. And again, this is a him because he's got the claspers that are next to and sort of inside of the pair of pelvic fins. And I could just sharpen some things up a bit if I want to. But also, again, if I wanted to really emphasize kind of the scariness of it coming towards us, I would put the most emphasis on this part. And, the teeth, we could get a little bit more emphasis to those teeth. That would be kind of fun, because this is Shark Week. I want to make them a little bit scary, but hammerhead sharks aren't known as being very aggressive. And again, we want to dispel the myth that all sharks are dangerous and they should be killed. Again, this species of great white shark is actually technically critically endangered because they are hunted so heavily for the Asian market of shark fin soup. And it is just heartbreaking that they will kill them and just cut off this fin and throw the whole dead shark back in the ocean. And sadly, this last year when I was in Central America, I was on a beach and fishermen had dumped an entire boatload of just the heads of a different species of hammerhead shark. And they were all over the beach, dozens and dozens of heads. And it was just so sad. And then hundreds of that attracted the stench of them rotting attracted hundreds of black vultures. So it was a really spooky view. But, I just want to emphasize, I talk a lot about sharks during Shark Week because I want people to realize that, they are really endangered, and many species are critically endangered, just like, things like, the rhinoceros. So just because they're not cute and cuddly doesn't mean we shouldn't be concerned with them. They play a really important apex predator role in the ecosystem for keeping the ecosystems healthy. Let's see. I can also use a white charcoal pencil if I want to be more subtle, like kind of want to bring this forward. No, that's not working. Sometimes you just have to, that, I like that. Yeah, Carolyn says sad. Yeah, it was just really heartbreaking. And we just we're not as aware of things that are going on in the ocean and in the open seas of the high seas of the ocean. So You know, if we don't see it, we don't care about it. And so that's why I really like to take the chance. Oops, I made a mess. To educate people about shark conservation. And yeah, so I made a mess there. Made a big old mess. But I don't care if actually, if I wanted to, I could just have fun and I could just kind of smear this whole area and make it look like it's going into the deep. Let's kind of do that. That will emphasize. And then I could make this even more obvious, coming in front of this fin. Yeah, that's cool, huh? That kitten's cool. I like that. So we want to have the greatest contrast, darks and lights, like this black cephalofoil and the white of the eye area. We want to have that the most contrast in the parts that are closest to us. You know, and that's how cartoonists, you know, get things so fun and realistic, hyper realism in a way that they're really emphasizing what's close and what's far away. And I'm making these dots here on his cephalofoil, and those are the ampullae of Lorenzini. And those, of course, are unique to sharks. It's a sixth sense. And that's what they're swinging back and forth their head against the surface of the sand, and they can sense the electrical impulses made by the skates and rays that they love to eat. Okay, see, so I'm really emphasizing that. And again, if I want to, I can just smear this a bit and smear this a bit. That's sort of fun. And then let's see, I want to highlight this a little bit more because this top of this fin is going to be catching the light more. There, I like that. And again, if I wanted to take this off and turn it upside down, yeah, that could help us a little bit see how dark we need to make things. And again, we can only go so dark with this 3B pencil. So I would love to have more of a range of values here, but it's kind of hard. But I always encourage you to turn things upside down again to really see the lights and darks. And yeah, so that's our shark. What do you think? Again, really emphasizing this part that's closest. A little bit darker, a little bit more shadows here. But anyway, there's a point where you can go too far. So I'm going to stop because I have a tendency to go too far because, you know, that's just me. And so that's what we have. That's what we have. Okay, what do you think? So I think that's about it. So I hope you had fun. Hope you had fun learning about sharks as we drew them. Again, even if it's not perfect, like this isn't perfect, the time you spent looking at something long enough to draw it is going to cement that in your brain. And you're going to remember sharks and the parts of the shark more than any number of photos or videos you watched. So I hope you really enjoyed this. And tell me in the chat box if you have any other species you'd like me to do. I don't know if I'll have time this week to do more species. I am participating in the Global Geo Art Blitz that started a few days ago, so I'm busy with that too. But I hope you enjoyed this. And if you're interested in learning about a certain species of shark and sketching it with me, put that in the comments, whether you're watching live or in the replay. And again, don't forget to check out the links below in the description box where you can download your high resolution images and also learn more about my Nature Notebook Club. That's my new monthly membership program. It's only $22 a month. You can join just for a month or stay for a year, however long you want. And we already have 41 members. I've been keeping track and I've got them all written here on my board. And we're having just a wonderful community inside the program where people are sharing their observations of the natural world. And we have weekly challenges. We have a monthly emphasis, like this month is on insects because there's a lot of insects around. And we have end of month Zoom meetings. So it's just a really fun, dynamic community. So again, that's called the Nature Notebook Club. It's on sale right now. If you lock in your price at $22, it will never change, but I am planning to raise it for new people in the future because we're already getting a lot of content in the library from this past month and a half since we've started. And so, yeah. So I hope you learned a bit about sharks and also about how they are endangered, like our great hammerhead, critically endangered species. So tell your friends. And if you think anybody would enjoy watching this video or any of my other videos about nature and wildlife observation, please share this channel with them. The more viewers and subscribers I get, the more YouTube will know that this is valuable content, which I plan to make it. So I hope you learned a lot today. And so happy Shark Week. Take good care. Bye-bye.